G'day. Ajmahari here with another response to a comment. Person left a comment on the video I did. Well, I can always say some of them are 16 years old. Some of them are 11, 14, 15, 10, 9, 8, 4 years ago, months ago, half a year ago. You know what I mean? Just so on the video that I did, which is probably a podcast episode in Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup podcast, but they're not all the same. Cross reference. Borderline fantasy subsumes codependent, sorry. And the commenter says a lot here. And by the way, people, if you're going to leave long, long ass comments, as they say out there in social media, could you break it up into paragraphs, maybe, please? It would be very helpful. People forget about paragraphs here. So the person said, I'll make this as short as possible. They don't really achieve that, or perhaps there is 10 times that. I don't know. So I'll make this as short as possible. I met a girl, the most beautiful thing I'd ever laid eyes on. Isn't that so often the case? And yet, I just have to say that not all female borderlines are tens and gorgeous and beyond. Many are. And not all male borderlines are fantastic looking either. Just saying. But yeah, this is what's happening more and more out there for people for sure. Or this is just all the people that we hear from. We fell in love, deep love, soulmate paradise stuff. No, it wasn't that, or you wouldn't have had to write all this. But that's what you believe it was. I hear you. But that's part of how the borderline, well, it's not really the borderline lack of self, and you don't know who they really are, and that their quote love is intermixed with some kind of abuse or something, betrayal to various levels and degrees. The fantasy of who you think the borderline is subsumes you. This person said soulmate paradise stuff. No, sorry, it's not really what you had, even if you feel like that's what you had, which I can appreciate how you feel. I took her around the world. Wow, that's amazing. Invested in her business ideas as insane emotional because there was an insane emotional and sexual connection. There's a typo. I provided shelter and financial support. I protected and cherished her. We were both seemingly so happy. This lasted 4.5 years. Then, in the last 6 months, she became more disrespectful towards me. Things got cryptic. And believe me, sooner or later, they always will. And this means it's not soulmate paradise stuff, unfortunately. He was having what I could only describe as psychotic episodes when drinking. She got more distant, but only periodically. One day I was using her iPad for work and I found raunchy pictures, the kind she used to send to me. I asked her what they were, and she said she was selling underwear and they were for advertising. Yeah, 'cause they lie so often too, unfortunately. I was upset but forgave her. At least she wasn't cheating or having an emotional affair, but I was not sure. Over the next 2 weeks, she used anything I said to start an argument and ultimately broke up with me. She was living in my house. I moved back to my parents and let her stay there until she found a way to leave. I went around to collect a package that was delivered there for me. I went to see her and said hello. She looked terrible, black eyes, red face, said, Get out. I don't want to talk to you. I feel uncomfortable around you. And you texted her saying you were sorry that you made her feel that way. There's another codependent thing. What she was describing how she felt, you saw her, right? She looked terrible for whatever that means, whatever she was going through. Well, then she said, I don't want to be around you and I don't like the way I feel. I said, You're not responsible for that. You didn't make her feel anything at all. So I wonder when you hear that, how does that hit you? Some people hearing it for the first time too, maybe not just a commenter. Yeah, she said she felt uncomfortable around you, but that's got nothing to do with you, commenter, or anybody that can relate. So you said that you were sorry you made her feel that way, which you didn't. And I said I would never contact again. She said she wanted to keep in touch and we were only on a break. And she lied again. And she didn't want to let you go in case she needed you. She wasn't thinking about you at all with that. So how is that soulmate paradise stuff? Just saying. She said she wanted to keep in touch, that you were only on a break. She moved 5 hours drive away, and we proceeded to keep in touch with a view to get back together. Oh, yes, yes. And process what happened. People with BPD untreated who have this kind of behavior split to devaluation, change, have these pictures that you find on their iPad that they only sent to you in the beginning, and like they're up to something, and it's not underwear sales, more likely than not. And then you're like keeping in touch with a view to get back together because you're just going to totally ignore that betrayal, right? Because it's a soulmate's paradise, you said. And process what happened. People with BPD don't process what happened. With you or without you, they're not going to process what happened. But many people hope for that, right? And then you find out not happening. What's going on here? And once you've been ghosted once, you're probably going to get ghosted over and over again, if not outright discarded. And it's hard to know if it's an outright discard until you don't hear from them ever again. And some are like that more so, and some aren't like that. And yeah. So anyway, cycles can go around for a while. But sometimes they stop unexpectedly too. So they wanted to, have a view still to get back together, staying in touch, and with the hope maybe to process what happened. And then the commenter says, however, she was a different person. Her texts were cold, no love, no pet names. She would say, quote, I love you, unquote, but she was different. And her responses took hours, where before they usually took minutes when the relationship was on. I went to visit her, and she was strange. We went for dinner, but she had to leave early, and she broke down crying when I said I was lonely in our house back home. The next day, we had a day out, and she held my hand in the car, which I didn't expect, then hugged me and gave me a small kiss when I left. We kept in touch, but it was the same coldness. This went on for about 1 month. She needed money to be transferred to her for an emergency, and I sent it. I have more of a feeling for why she wanted to stay in touch with you now, because they're always thinking about if they need money, whatever they might need. They might need somebody to give them something. And so you're on the hook for that, but it's not really much more than that, actually, sadly enough. However, during the conversation, that I guess after you sent the money, she was rapid texting, and I said I would like if she had the enthusiasm when we normally text. So again, you're saying now to this person you don't know anymore because you never really knew her. You're saying you want her to be more like the person that you thought she was. Good luck with that. I understand why, but it doesn't work. And then she hurled a load of abuse at me, saying I was being abusive and manipulative, and said that we shouldn't talk anymore because she got what she wanted, and I guess didn't feel like she needed anything else. And then she accuses you of doing essentially what she was doing. She has ghosted me since. I'm now devastated, broken, unable to get a full night's sleep, can't concentrate on my business. I'm obsessively thinking about her. I'm so sad. I thought she was my soulmate, and I don't want to go on. And then the commenter said at the bottom, as if all the people commenting on my channel have all the answers, just saying, no, they don't usually. Can anyone help to shed light on what just happened to me? And can I get her back? Well, first of all, commenter and anybody that can relate to this, I'm very sorry to hear how you're feeling. It's very devastating. You're feeling like you don't want to go on. I hope you realize that that's a feeling and you can find a way to go on. And by the way, I'm out here to work with anybody that resonates with me in all of these situations and more or less, but whatever's happening. And so you're devastated, broken, unable to get a full night's sleep, can't concentrate on your business. You're obsessively thinking about her, very sad because you thought she was your soulmate, right? But what you need to know right now, commenter, is all of this and how you're feeling and what happened. It means she's not your soulmate. It means you don't really know who she is. It means that the person you fell in love with and thought was your soulmate, that you treated so amazingly and shared some, sounds like, wonderful times with, isn't who she really is. And you said you don't want to go on. You said, can anyone help to shed light on what just happened to me? And can I get her back? Well, I can shed some light and say that from what you shared, this sounds like a woman with the patterns of borderline personality disorder and can't, if she's not diagnosed or anything. I mean, I'm not here to diagnose, but it's patterns of BPD, and she's likely diagnosable with that if she'd ever go to get assessed. So what just happened to you was you fell in love with a really attractive woman, so like you said, the most gorgeous woman that you ever laid eyes on. And in the idealization honeymoon phase, which sounded like it lasted quite a while, there might have been some bumps you didn't mention, but like they weren't major, right? And so things were going really, really well. And you said for 4.5 years. And then you said, then in the last 6 months, she became more disrespectful. Things got cryptic. And of course, she had a drinking problem, it sounds like, which is often correlated, not only, but with people with BPD, not all, but many. So she had a drinking problem, but that's not the only reason you started to see a whole different her, a more disrespectful her, a cold her, a her that was pulling away, that no longer felt like she was connected to you. And that's not your fault. And so the other thing you mentioned that in the cryptic stuff, and then you used your iPad and you saw raunchy pictures. So you see, when you got those, well, you're calling them this, so I'll just use the term. When you got the raunchy pictures when you met her, and that was exciting and great, well, she was already sort of beginning, if not monkey branching, and maybe not full on yet, but that's what she was up to on the iPad. And somebody else was around at least online, so don't know if in real life yet. But so she was already devaluing, had split and devalued you in spite of all that you gave her. It sounds like you gave a whole lot, which is, yeah, usually people that end up with somebody with BPD and don't know, like at first or for quite a while, you do, you give, you overgive, trying to make everything so special and please them, etc. And but they don't really give it back. And then you find raunchy pictures on her iPad, and then she lies to you and says, "Oh, they're just for underwear sales." Uh-huh. You had 4.5, it sounds reasonable and or excellent years together. But here's the really tragic news. For some people with BPD, not a lot these days, but some, they can kind of hang into a relationship for 4 or 5 or 4.5 years. And maybe if they take some time away, depending, they might then have some of their, dysregulated emotion, or if this was a quiet person with BPD, they might be going through the turmoil inside, but you never really see it. And it sounds like it might have been a quiet borderline because it doesn't sound like there was really anything that was discernible by you, outright obvious until the raunchy pictures on the iPad and her changing and the devaluation and the being cold and all of that type of thing, and then breaking up with you. So if you said here, could anybody help shed light on what just happened to me? Well, what happened to you was you met and fell in love with somebody who has all the patterns as you're from the information you gave, a borderline personality disorder, and that you were betrayed, abandoned, abused, neglected, not given back to, not reciprocated to a whole lot. It might have seemed like it for some of those years. But in the end, you found out who she really is, a drinking problem. So it wouldn't have just been the alcohol, why she changed so much. It was also that she was in a big devaluation split of you, which you couldn't have known what that was at that point. You kept in touch with the same coldness for about a month. And then, so she wanted to stay in touch in case she needed you. And then she needed money in an emergency, and you gave her that. And this is probably not, depending how you sound like you're doing well financially, but still, depending on the amount of money and depending on how you're doing financially, you might not care about, you're never going to see the money again. But the fact is, that's how they use people. So after everything that you went through, all you gave her, and all that seemed like it was soulmate paradise, I'm so sorry to tell you that what happened was you were with a person with borderline personality disorder or who could be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and they cannot stay in relationships, Sometimes for longer periods of time, especially the quiet borderline, but often not. It depends because not all people with BPD are the same, or not all people with the patterns of BPD are the same. But the key thing to know is what happened to you is that you were betrayed, you were abused, you were cast aside, broken up with, treated poorly, devalued all of a sudden, not good enough. You felt like you made her feel bad and you didn't make her look terrible. And I know what you mean. She probably was going through some rough stuff and maybe drinking too much. That had nothing to do with you. But unfortunately, what you need to know about what happened is this is who she really is and who she really isn't at the same time. What do I mean by that? Well, she's not the person you fell in love with and spent all those years with, probably a quiet borderline that was holding a lot of stuff in that you never saw. Then she's not that person, and she isn't this person that went cold on you, used you for money, stayed in touch, held your hand. They're needy, even when they're throwing you away. It's all about what they need and what they want. And they use you. And she used you. And especially at the end. And that's what happened, commenter. I hope that shed some light on it for you. And the other thing is, then you say, and can I get her back? Well, I don't know of this particular woman, commenter, because they're not all the same. Chances are that might be wholly impossible. She's already been busy with raunchy pictures elsewhere, looking horrible when you saw her, so kind of reflecting back the image or identity of whoever maybe she monkey branched to or is involved with or is their drinking buddy, or she's gone down now into like falling apart more, which is not new for her, but like maybe she could hold that together for a bit longer, like 4 years and more than average. And you want to know if you can get her back? This is what people, I don't know how much you've looked at videos and all the stuff written on the internet, half of which is misinformation anyway. You might realize by now that if you see this video, at least I hope it will help you to know patterns of borderline personality disorder you're describing. And it means, like you said, now you're saying, I thought she was my soulmate toward the end of your comment. Because, yeah, commenter, unfortunately, as much as it felt like that, that was just still idealization and probably quiet borderline holding their turmoil inside, not showing it to you. But they can only do that for certain periods of time. And then sooner or later, no matter how many years, or if it's only months or weeks, or whatever the case, they're not all the same. They can't stand it anymore because they don't really ever feel love for you. They don't really take in your love fully. They can't hold it consistently. They don't really love you. They might try and they might think they do, but they don't because they have this fragmented off child ego state and they don't know who they are. They actually lack self. And it sounds like she had some kind of an identity, I mean a pseudo identity, through you and through who you wanted her to be. And then suddenly that starts falling apart for her because she's probably been holding in a lot of stuff over time. And then she meets someone else online, or she gets talking to somebody online and she sends raunchy pictures, etc. Probably it was, unless she feared somehow that you would abandon her, which doesn't have to be a rational fear, and with the drinking and everything, and then talking to someone else, it's sort of like a monkey branch, at least to a part, if not full on monkey branch. Now she's starting to take on some of the traits of whoever she's monkey branch to or monkey branching to. And it's not very positive, it doesn't sound like, this person. And they can often go from very nice, decent people, like you sound like a very nice, giving man commenter, maybe with some codependency. They can go from someone like yourself, giving her like trips around the world, giving her everything possible, very generous, probably over giving, but very generous, caring, and you were trying to love her very much, or you were loving her very much. That at a certain point, if it's not perceived fear of abandonment, it sounds like for this person, this woman, it might have been just engulfment anxiety and everything became too much. And they just can't be consistent with people, even if they've been more or less consistent seeming for 4 years. The bottom falls out, the trauma and or why they have BPD rises up in them. The emotional dysregulation gets worse and worse. The pain rises and they don't know what's causing it. So they'll blame it on you, break up with you, ghost you, or discard you. And you go through all of this. So I hope you know what happened now. But you also need to know about what happened is that it's all that can happen until unless this person would go and get assessed and get treated for something like 8 to 10 to 16 years to really heal and change and be relationship capable, relationship worthy, relationship consistent, because you don't know this person at all, commenter, who they really are, because they don't know who they really are. And they have at least a drinking problem. They probably do some impulsive, risky other things in the sexual arena when they make this, devaluation split. Sounds like more engulfment anxiety, but you got to go. And they disconnect like that, and you're not important anymore, and you make them feel bad. And like she said, she doesn't feel comfortable around you. That's all about her, not you. And so this is all what happened, commenter. And why do you want her back? Because you said, and can I get her back? Well, no, you can't ever get the person that you thought was your soulmate in paradise. No, you'll never get her back because she doesn't exist. Could you get the person that you really never knew that she more really is in a false self context way of not having a self? Could you get that person back? Who knows? Maybe it's possible. But what I hope for you, commenter, and anybody that relates to this, still maybe recycling relationships or hoping to recontact a BPD Ex or hoping that they'll contact you and that you can try again, it won't work. I've been doing this working with clients for 35 years, and I can promise you, from what you said right there, if you get her back, you're going to go through the same thing again. And there could be a great chance that you will not ever be able to get her back. And you feel like you can't go on and you're in all kinds of agony and pain. And I know that. I hear that, understand that. I feel for you. I would encourage you, I'm out here to work with people that resonate with me, but I would encourage you to get into working with someone. If I resonate with you, I'm out here. If not, someone else. And be really delineating and careful about who you choose, because a lot of people out here saying they're experts and they don't know much about BPD, much about codependency, much about these trauma bonded relationship dynamics that for so many people, commenter, feel like it was soulmate paradise until all of a sudden, no, it's a meat grinder and you're in agony and you're missing them and you don't know what happened and you want her back. But believe me, it won't work, and you don't need to go through more agony and pain because you unfortunately met who she, quote, sort of is. It's the false self inside of her because she doesn't have a real self. And it's the part of herself that she'll have to go back to, the part of lack of self, a false self protector, and risky impulsive behavior and disconnect and devaluation and the splitting of it. And now she's disconnected from you. She was never really connected to you though. But in a way it seemed like that. That's why I'm thinking this has got to be a quiet borderline. Because they'll keep all the turmoil inside, unlike the petulant that will argue and fight with you. And so it's even harder to know that you're with somebody with all the patterns of BPD if they're quiet borderline, because you might not have seen anything that like troubling until you found the raunchy pictures on the iPad. And then her behavior started to change because she was caught by you, commenter. She knew it could have been fear of abandonment because you caught her. You asked, like, where are these pictures? And you forgave her, you said, where you're at right now, unless you're taking in a lot of information since you left this comment, which actually was, only yesterday. So probably not. You need really to get working with someone to understand more fully what happened. I gave you a synopsis here of what it really is. And to know that and can I get her back? I know that it feels like you can't survive without her, but trust me, you won't survive with her. And you can't live without her right now, it feels like, because you need to learn how and you need to heal a lot. And you need therapy for that, commenter. You want her back right now for unconscious reasons you're not even aware of. And you want her back right now because you want out of the agony and the pain, because you feel like you can't go on without her, which is not true, commenter. But I know you're in a world of hurt, that the BPD relationship is the most painful breakup of all. So just know, commenter, how you're feeling right now is horrible and terrible and gut-wrenching and everything as that is. The way forward is to get into therapy and to understand the trauma bond and how you got there in the first place. And if she was a quiet borderline, how she fooled you for so long and that you really never knew who she was. Because you need to be able to work on how you're feeling, to heal a lot, but to understand what got you there. And even maybe you couldn't have known. And the other thing is, you need to work on why you feel like you can't go on, the over focusing on her, the ruminating, and the not being able to focus on your career, your business, anything else, because you're in this place that is just BPD breakup hell. And the answer isn't to go back to try to get the person back, because they're just going to do it to you all over again. Only they will not re-idealize. And I have just a gut feeling about this. I have enough guts for that. I have a really strong gut feeling about this in what you described. And the more I broke it down and how it happened and everything, and given that she probably is a quiet borderline, because you would have had more trouble before 4.5 years. And then it all goes downhill really quickly. And of course, you're shocked and you're like, what? And like, I want her back. But the thing about that is that she is likely, just based on what you said, I have the strong gut feeling, like I said, with the bad joke, that she's not going to be that reachable. She's not really going to do that recontacting thing, because her shame and her level of guilt, though it will remain internal, and people don't talk about this with BPD untreated or undiagnosed even, she's going to pull away from you for good because she won't really be able to face you again. And the last time you saw her, she was looking terrible. She's in a downward spiral. That kind of suggests that she's found some character that's really bad for her. You can't rescue or save her. And that her drinking must have exponentially gone up, and or she's got involved with substances and other things. And I'm sure you don't want to hear that. But I have a strong feeling that this might be the type of quiet, all the BPD patterns but not diagnosed woman that will never make contact with you again. And I could be wrong about that. I can't say that 100%, but you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to get intermittent reinforcement if you do get her to contact you again and think that you can go back. And then you're going to feel better, but it's fake better feeling. And then it's going to happen again and you're going to be right back where you are right now. So I would suggest, commenter, and anyone that can relate to this commenter, as painful as it is, as scary as it is, as unknown as this territory is to you, you need to work with somebody, well, like myself, if I resonate with you, because I'm an absolute expert in this area. I've been working with clients for 35 years in all of these relationship types, and people who are ghosted, discarded, broken up with, tossed aside, and blamed by people with BPD patterns who might not even be diagnosed yet. And the thing is, you need to work with someone now. You need support. You need to be able to talk about it and be listened to and heard and understood, and some guidance to whatever degree you're willing to take guidance. And then you need to understand more about what's driving how bad you're feeling, which is, yes, the loss of her, but something else also that is why you ended up in this relationship when she just looked like, you said, the most attractive woman you'd ever seen in your life, and everything seemed so wonderful, but it never really was what you thought it was, commenter, or anyone else that can relate. I'm sorry to be the bearer of such awful news that nobody wants to hear, and especially the way you described where you are, commenter, and how you're feeling. I really have a lot of empathy and compassion for you. And hey, I'm a fat old broad, but I know what I'm doing. So if I resonate with you, I hope maybe to hear from you soon, commenter, or anyone else going through this, because there's so much I can help you to understand. Whether you can get her back or not, we don't know. But I could help you a lot in the meantime with just how much you're suffering, or anyone else who's in that place of suffering right now. Hope that was helpful, and take care.